Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Blues Central, part of STL Sports Central on YouTube. I'm Thomas Welch here with Mike Meyer. And Mike, my God, we got a lot to talk about. Home opener, the Blues fall to the Minnesota Wild, Central Division opponents, 5-0, shut out. Mike, knee-jerk reactions. How are you feeling? Is the season over? Should we just throw in the towel now? This is the first game, the first regular season game after 1.6 seconds. There's a lot to digest, a lot to take in. What are your immediate thoughts on this game?
Knee-jerk reaction is absolutely pathetic. Unlucky bounces, refs not calling. Here's some different calls here. I think that they should have. I mean, there's a wide array here of different emotions that I end up having. And I'm sorry here. I got the kids that I'm watching here as well. So that's what happens when one of your children's in the hospital and you have to be able to play double duty here right now. So this was not a game I was hoping for. This is not a game I think that St. Louis was ready for. This was just not it at all. So that's I think where I can be able to sum this up here with just right now.
Yeah, and as a reminder, all of our content here on STL Sports Central and Blue Central is brought to you by DraftKings. The crown is yours. For me, dude, I think it just goes back to you had such a bewildering run down the stretch, even to just make the playoffs. They really felt like a team of destiny, playing the best hockey in the entire NHL. Robert Thomas doing his thing down the stretch, like all post Four Nations, Jim Montgomery getting his fingerprints, like all these things. We talk about the offseason. Zachary Bolduc getting traded. Now we got a defenseman, Logan Mailloux. All these great things that happened in the offseason. It's like, I got the hat on right now, but it really felt like the Blues were the one team in St. Louis that you could hang your hat on and be like, well, the Cardinals suck and it doesn't look great. City sucks and it doesn't look great. The Battlehawks can't win in the playoffs even though they get spoon-feed a championship game in St. Louis every single year. Doesn't look great. But at least we have the Blues, right? At least we have the Blues. Everybody's all fired up for the home opener, and they come out and just absolutely embarrass themselves. And look, it's a long season, right? And there's a ton of games. Like, this team is going to be shades completely different than the one that we saw tonight. But for them to come out after such a long hiatus, after how disappointing everybody was after the 1.6 seconds and blowing it. Like, we heard Oscar Sundquist in the offseason. If you haven't checked out that episode, make sure to go check it out. But we talked to him and he was like, yeah, we played a great game 7 all the way until the end of the third period where they choked it away. It is what it is, right? You kind of bury the hatchet, let bygones be bygones, but keep it in the back of your mind like, hey, this is not great for the team. Like, we got to step it up. We got to take it to the next level next season. And it's just a disappointing way to start your redemption tour for me specifically. And I think the fact that they didn't end up on the goal sheet, there's, you can talk about the referees all you want and how they didn't even up the penalties, but I mean, it's 5-0. Like,
Absolutely.
Are they going to call 5 penalties on us and we're going to score 100% on the power play and we need to score on 1? Like, it's just frustrating all the way around. And it's especially with the way, like I said, everybody had high hopes going into this season. And Minnesota Wild, I think they said on the broadcast, you only play them 3 times this season. And they're one of your opponents in the Central. And as we know, the Central is going to be tight, very tight this year because all these teams are progressively getting better as they have in the offseason. Like, that's going to be one of the teams you're fighting with down the stretch for a playoff spot or jostling with for seeding. So not a great start to the season by any stretch of the imagination.
Yeah, this was, like you said, this was going to be a team that they're going to be jostling with, I think, here all season long. And so you have to be able to grab points against the Minnesota Wild any single chance that you can be able to get them. And to not really be able to see any bit of fire, emotion, it seemed like, I mean, throughout any bit of the game was extremely disappointing. And like you said, you can't really be able to blame the refs, but when you don't get off here on a good start, that first goal was a bit of a flutter. That second goal was just a boom, boom, tic-tac-toe. Jordan Binnington can't be able to make that glove stop. And I think that he was wanting that back. And you never seem like that this team could really just get going the right way. And so any single time that they could try to start getting out of that first gear, they sputtered, and then they started, and then they sputtered. Logan Mayu looked really good for the first two penalty kills. He made one play where he caught up, reached around, and stopped a direct scoring attempt here on the penalty kill. And I thought, I'm like, dang, and I even tweeted this, I'm like, he's been looking really good. And ultimately, this game was not the best for Logan Mayu. But this was not a great game here for, I think, anybody across the entire board. We were talking about this here before the start here of the stream. This was, I believe, the second time that this team here has played the entire team together. Does that make a difference when you're playing a game? Maybe, but in my comment here to you guys, it was, this is not like you're carrying 5-6 new members here of this squad. I mean, most of this team is playing together and they're the exact same squad. Yes, you now have a Pius Suter, you don't have an Oscar Sundquist, and so you're playing Bukestad here down here on the fourth line. You now have Logan Mayu here in the back. But again, most of these guys are the exact same players that you're moving forward here with that you had last season. So where was the same chemistry? Where was this? There just was no drive that I'm seeing. And I think that was the most frustrating part. If you're getting goals, if you're getting a strong effort, if this is a back and forth kind of a game and you lose the game 5-3, and it's a close, and Minnesota gets 2 last-minute goals. I mean, it's a completely different story because you're seeing some efforts. But when you're also just not seeing anything else other than shot and Gustafsson swallows it up, shot and Gustafsson swallows it up, shot and Gustafsson swallows it up, like you're not getting anybody in front of the net. You're not getting any pucks that are trick plays. You're not, like, there was no creativity. There was nobody trying to blind him here at all. And it's just frustrating because it just looks like that they were just going out there for 60 minutes just to maybe play hockey, maybe. And it's just, again, just frustrating.
Yeah, and I think that was one of the things at the beginning part of last season where they struggled was, they get scored on, they hang their heads a little bit, get scored on again, and then now you're playing catch up the whole game. As we saw tonight, I think there was a little bit of hanging heads when it came to the third period. It was almost like a kind of a dead fish, but they're still going to go out and bang bodies and give it your best shot. But in the comments, Safari Elvis said this team was awful in the preseason and it carried over. I think that's kind of what you were talking about with the team chemistry. And I think, it's tough because it's a balancing act, right? And I think like on the flip side, we saw Alexander Barkov go down for the Florida Panthers, like their captain. Now he's out for the season. That was in a practice. So like you run the risk of injuries the more you play your, opening day lineup throughout the course of the preseason. But that being said, the risk on the opposite side of that is coming out and looking absolutely ice cold in your home opener because you're avoiding playing your home opener lineup. And I think that's kind of where the Blues fall in that category. Like, and to Safari Elvis's credit, like Binner was nails in preseason. Like I was like, we might see a Vezina campaign from this guy. Like he's playing lights out. And then tonight, like I'm not going to come on here and say that like this whole game is Jordan Binnington's fault because I think all 5 goals were scored within 5 feet of the net from guys that were wide open in front of the net. So like, you got to limit your chances as much as possible, but also at the same time, like Binner probably saves like 4 of those in the preseason or like at least 3. So like, it was just, I feel like there's not one specific area that I could point out on this game to where I was like, oh, at least they did that well. But then it's also like a collective failure from the entire team as a unit, if that makes sense. Like I didn't like Binner's game. He needs to make some of those saves. Like the defense has to cover those guys in like the most dangerous area of the ice. And then the offense, like you were talking about, Mike, like pick a corner. Like I love the volume. I love getting the opportunities and the shots on goal. But if Gustafsson's not letting up rebounds, if you're not getting traffic in front of the net, like you got to snipe some or like you got to score off the rush. And like, yes, it's a possession game. And yes, like you want to, have a certain style of play, but you just got to find the back of the net. And the Blues were unable to do that tonight.
I think if there was one positive spot here for me, it was actually Robert Thomas. And I think that's easy to be able to say, but you saw some early plays here from him in the game where he had two different um, interceptions. And there was one play here that he made that he unfortunately he just got in too deep and he couldn't be able to find any real estate here at all. And that looked like it could have been a goal attempt. There was another play that he had intercepted here in his own zone, carried it here up ice, did a cross ice feed here in the offensive zone, and Logan Mayu just misses it. There was another play here that he ended up making, and I think everybody saw. I mean, this is the shot. I think that everybody thought here was going to be a goal, that it was going to be called back, that it looked like it just bounced out, but it just was. It, like you said, pick a corner. Well, he did it, but I think if again, like if there's one bright spot, and it's so sad to say that one player making just 3 plays throughout the entire course of the game, that's your bright spot, but it kind of is, and if you can be able to take some lessons here from what 81, I'm sorry, what 18 here is doing, then so be it. There was some positives to be able to take here from it and say, okay, we have to be able to start taking and stripping away here what we did wrong and start moving forward. Here's what he did. What did you end up seeing, Robert Thomas? How can we be able to move forward here with this? So again, you just have to be able to see what could end up happening. I love this comment here. I'm going to try and go back. Mayo so soft you could spread them on a piece of bread and slap a piece of ham on it. I'm too hungry at this point, man. And again, this has been a long day, so somehow that sounds good. I don't know, but it's just I think you're going to see a lot of better things here throughout the entire course of the season from Logan Mayu. Again, this was just a bad game here overall. I think we've also gotten really used to the fact that we could beat up here on the Minnesota Wild and just kind of have our way. But at the same point in time, you can't underestimate any single team who comes into the NHL. These guys are all NHL players. They've got elite players here on every single roster, and I don't think that you can be able to discount any single player who comes in.
Once again, 5-0 loss. The Blues lose their home opener to the Minnesota Wild. If you're just joining, our post-game show is brought to you by our business banking partners at Home Bank. From business lending to everyday banking, Home Bank has been with us since day one as a trusted partner. Business isn't just about numbers, it's about relationships. And with Home Bank, those relationships make all the difference. Home Bank is the team behind our team at STL Sports Central. Visit myhomebank.bank or call 855-577-2001. Home Bank member FDIC, more than a bank, they're your business partner. Mike, I don't know about you, but coming out in the way that the Blues did, like we talked about, all the goals, all these things, it makes you a little bit nervous for this Blues team down the stretch. But I kind of like you're talking about, you see little flashes of Robert Thomas's play, right? Mm-hmm. And I think we saw a little bit flashes of what this offense can do. And one guy that I thought really stuck out to me in, creating the chances and really at a complete, I wouldn't say a complete opposite, but almost contradicting to what we saw from him last year was the game of Pavel Buchnevich. I think he had a nice little deke around the goal and a flutter pass across the crease that just missed going into the back of the net. But if he can play at that level that we saw tonight, every game, all the way through 82 games, and I think I saw in an interview in the offseason that he was kind of banged up last year and dealing with some injuries, so that might be why he kind of took a step back. But if we can get the full-blown Pavel Buchnevich experience that we know, that we love, that we, got him a new contract for, that will, I think that will bear fruit for this Blues team in the long run.
Yeah, and that's I think what everybody's hopeful here for. He is in desperate need here of at least offensively and a statistical bounce back, because last season was a massive step backwards here for him. We did see some good things here from him. I think we did see some good things here from Cairo here at times. Again, from Robert Thomas here as well. It just, you couldn't really find anything that was consistent across the board. And I think that's was where the hardest thing here came from, because any single time that they had any sustained offensive pressure, any single chance that they could make anything get up and going, Minnesota was just right there. Minnesota had their number the entire night. And this is where you need your big stars to be able to show up. You had Jimmy Snuggerud make a small little flash. Dylan Holloway, for me, didn't necessarily pop off of the score sheet here, obviously, but didn't really pop here visually here as well. And so I think we maybe have wanted a little bit more here from him. Bukestad here again was kept down, here into that bottom 6 role. But of course, as the game here moved along, Monty jumbled up and just blended those lines here together just to try and get something going. I think when you move Nathan Walker here, I think he put Walker up on that second line, if I read that here correctly. That's who you're desperate. It's no offense here to Nathan Walker, but if you're putting him up here in your second line, that's scary. But you just need some consistency here. And so again, this is a game I'm not going to look overly into. It's game 1. You've played 60 minutes. It's a long season. There's plenty you could be able to get mad here at, but I just, this is one you throw away the tape here from, or you keep it and you say, boys, look how we started this season out. Look at where we're at now. Let's keep moving forward.
If I remember correctly, too, I think the Dallas Stars got blown out in their home opener last year, and they still end up doing pretty well in their season. So it doesn't necessarily mean that everything's over. I know someone in chat was saying we lost 5-0. There's nothing positive to take away. Listen, man, it's our job to find something to talk about. Okay, I can't just sit on here and be like, we suck. Everyone sucks. Nobody is safe. Season's over. Stop watching. Never tune into us again. Don't check. We got there is some, silver linings. One silver lining I'm going to bring up is here's all of the players that weren't on the ice for a goal against. Pius Suter, Nathan Walker, Philip Broberg, and Justin Falk. And that's it. Everybody else got
nice job, boys. Nice job, boys.
So in terms of defense, or whether it was just like, hey, this isn't looking very good, I'm gonna get my skates over to the bench real quick. Those guys weren't minus on the score sheet. So maybe that's something to build off of for them. But that kind of goes along with what I was saying, where it wasn't really like one guy was a -7. It's like, okay, we can't play him anymore. Or -7. Yeah.
Right.
-5, right? And it's like, okay, we can't play him anymore. And they just isolated him and, made him look bad. I think it was a team-oriented lack of defense. So I feel like, next practice, Jim Montgomery is probably going to be like, hey, boys, guess what we're doing? All practice, defense. And then maybe you'll figure out, how to score if you can keep the puck from going in your own net. I don't know. It's just something.
Defense wins championships.
I don't think STL Media, Aaron Dodson says STL Media will talk us into accept the losing. Listen, dude, I'm as mad as you are. Like I've been a fan for a while, like since I was in diapers. Like this is possibly the worst result you could ask for in a home opener, especially immediately after losing 1.6 seconds left in game 7. Like I'm pulling my hair out, like trying not to scream in my condo right now because it's 10 o'clock at night and I'm livid. Okay. So I'm with you here, but like it can't be that we're one game into the season and already giving up on this team that we saw turn it on 3/4 of the year into the season last year and still managed to make the playoffs. And some of us were convinced that they were going to, win the Stanley Cup or at least make a move for it. Like they were the best team post 4 nations in the NHL. So like for you to come on in here and say, like, I'm trying to spin it positively. Trust me, dude, like by all accounts, this is a train wreck of a first game of the season. I'm just not ready to be like, the whole thing is off course, throwing the towel. I'm taking my hat off and shaving my head, not because we're making the playoffs, but because I'm embarrassed to be, a Blues fan. And you know what I'm saying? It's not all doom and gloom yet. If we lose our first 10 games, then I'll probably go Stephen A. Smith on this team, but I'm not there yet. We are joined by Ethan Hannaford, who was on location at Enterprise Center. Ethan, was it as electric as it looked on TV, or did the crowd die down very fast? What was the energy like in the stadium, on the ice, and your perspective of the St. Louis Blues team that we saw tonight?
I tell you what, I joined right in the middle of a train wreck. Holy cow! Everything's falling apart on STL Sports Central. No, it was the crowd was energetic, was exactly what you expect of Blues fans, and honestly, exactly how they finished off the 2024-25 season. The crowd wise, I remember at Game 6 how rowdy, how loud it was. It felt like the way that things finished, the anticipation was there based off of what they saw at the end of last season, and that was pent up for an entire offseason. So yes, the introductions, all of that, crowd was excellent. They were ready to go. You could tell that they were right on the edge for the first 30 minutes of this hockey game, waiting for something to just send them off. Unfortunately, they didn't really get that opportunity tonight. Even after a disappointing first period, when you look at the scoreboard, felt very much so felt like it was still a game. And then you build some great momentum in the first half of the second period. And when you get nothing to show for it and seconds into a penalty, all of a sudden it's 3-0. And then a couple of minutes later, it's 4-0. It felt like in that couple of minute period, the life just got sucked out of the Enterprise Center tonight. Unfortunate because, like I said, even being down early, the crowd was very much so in it. And unfortunately, just not a good enough showing tonight from the St. Louis Blues, who had won. I think Chris Kerber saw on the broadcast 15 straight at the Enterprise Center.
Yeah.
I mean, what an unbelievable streak. But that one, that streak ends to start off the 25-26 season.
Yeah, I think it's pretty blatantly obvious that the Blues were lacking some fire tonight, but you can fuel your fire with Drink Thunder right here.
Ooh,
The all-natural
look at
pre-workout
that.
that hits different. It's plant-based, fruit-powered, zero sugar, sweetened naturally with monk fruit. Each serving is packed with vitamins, minerals, and antioxidants to ignite your energy and push your performance to the next level. Blues could use a little bit of that, right? Choose your flavor: orange, mango, blackberry, lemonade, or strawberry cream, and feel the rush the natural way. Order now at drinkthunder.com. Drink Thunder, pure power, no crash, all natural. Mike, going
Yes, sir.
forward with the St. Louis Blues in our next game, in our next matchup, where do you think this team, obviously I think the answer is everywhere, right? Where do you think this team needs to kind of isolate and really focus in on practices, or, maybe it's a player stepping up, or, maybe it's leadership and Braden Shen going in the locker room and being like, hey boys, what the hell was that? Right? Like, what are we doing? Like, bring up the playoffs, bring up 1.6 and be like, that's unacceptable for this fan base. And like Ethan said, 15 games in a row at home, like down the stretch last year, we felt that home ice presence, right, of the St. Louis Blues and the fans, and everybody was fired up. And we kept it going into this season. And unfortunately, the Blues performance did not. How do we bring that back to Enterprise Center, Mike?
I think they need to take a lesson here from Ted Lasso, believe, and have the memory of a goldfish, and just play your game.
Yeah.
These boys know that they are talented. These guys know, and this is not me just trying to spin it here into a positive attitude, because again, like you have said here before, you cannot go into each game just being frustrated here at this point, because you're just going to continue to be able to make mistakes. You cannot be able to continue to move forward and have this just piss poor attitude here with this, just moving forward, because again, like, that's how you're going to make mistakes. That's how you're going to get frustrated. That's how you're going to go down 1-0 here early on and say, okay, here we go here again. And Rock, absolutely, you nailed it. This is my last point. You have to park your butt in front of the net. You cannot be able to continue to put 30 pucks on net with nobody screening the goaltender at all. Because if the goaltender is going to see every single one of these guys are moving lightning fast here right now. Yes, even as somebody said here earlier, slow-ass Jordan Binnington, yep, he's still going to be able to make it. Goldberg here in net could be able to probably stop here all of these, probably only if they're cheeseburgers. But at that point in time, again, you have to just continue to move forward, just knowing that there are 81 games here still left. Yep. We didn't earn these 2 points, but we're going to go out and we're going to do our damnedest to be able to earn every single one of these points, at least one every single one of these games.
Are you worried about Jordan Binnington?
No, absolutely not.
Why would you? Why are you worried about him, Thomas?
No, but I think there's a collective unit in the fan base that's like, what happened? Why? He was great in preseason, and then we get to the regular season and he collapses. And we've kind of seen, I think throughout the course of years, especially post 2019, where we can all agree that Jordan Binnington is one of the major reasons that we won that Stanley Cup. But we've kind of seen stretches of play from Jordan Binnington where he has struggled and he has kind of let in cupcakes and muffins. Now, I'm not saying that that's entirely his fault, because the Blues defense has been in shambles really since the time that Alex Pietrangelo left. But I think you have to take into consideration that it's a unit back there, right? The defense and the goalie goes hand in hand. So when the defense is playing well, the goalie's playing better. When the goalie's not playing good, the defense is playing worse, and vice versa, right? So at least one of those units has to be on fire if the other one's not on at all, or they can kind of balance each other out. Somebody's got to figure it out by the time that we play the Flames on October 11th. We have Calgary Flames coming up, and then the Canucks, and then the Blackhawks, and then we're back to the Stars on October 18th. So you have to figure things out by October 18th, because if you come up to the Stars playing the way that you did against Minnesota Wild, it's going to be just as bad, if not worse, of a result. So you got 3 games before then to kind of figure it out, and we'll go from there. Ethan, what do you think about that?
Yeah, we had the opportunity to hear from Jim Montgomery, as always, tonight, as well as Braden Shen and Justin Falk. And my biggest takeaways from all 3 of those was, while the performance was nowhere near good enough tonight, I mean, everyone was composed. It's exactly what Mike said. This is one game. It is a long season. And if you allow yourself to get wrapped up in a disappointing performance, yes, more disappointing than most, because it is the home opener and you had the fans here and you got shut out for the first time in team history in a home opener. Yes, those can all be true, while simultaneously recognizing that you have to move on and play the game that you know that you are able to play. That is point number 1, as to which I took from everything that I heard tonight from those 3 guys. And the other one being that I'm losing. Oh, net front battles. It's exactly what you said. It's the net front battle, lack of presence in front of the net. And this is why I'm not concerned with Jordan Binnington, because you could argue that 4 of the 5 goals, like, very much so, were either based on lucky bounces or no one covering his butt in front of the net. So
especially the first goal.
Yes, the
first goal just
super weird
trickling
bounce
on its way through
off the toe. The third goal was off the post. You had one of them that was a missed hooking call. I mean, I don't even remember the 5th one. It didn't matter at that point, really. It felt like yes, like, could you argue that Gustafsson was the sharper goalie tonight? Absolutely, because he was. I mean, he was on point. The Blues had some great opportunities in the first 10 minutes of the second period, when they had 14 straight shots to start off the period. And you know what? They weren't able to capitalize. In their next 10 games with 14 straight shots to start off a period, are they going to go over? I would assume that in the majority of those games, with the amount of talent and ability that they have in their forward group, that's not going to happen super often. Unfortunately, it did tonight, and they weren't able to take advantage of opportunities, but it's one game. There's no need to be panicking. It's a disappointing performance. Yes, they are going to have to turn things around and have a different response in a day and a half, but I have no reason as to why, no reason to believe that can't happen with the level of leadership that this team has, and also based off of what we had seen up to this point in camp, in the preseason. There's a lot of great reason to believe that this team is going to be in the mix better this year even than they were last year. I have zero concern based off of one disappointing performance.
And we're talking about it a lot at the end of last season, but this team continues to get younger and younger in Mayu and Jimmy Snuggerud, making impacts in their first game of the regular season this year. And I did like Jimmy Snuggerud's game, and I'm not just saying that because I've got $100 on him to win the Calder. But speaking of bets, make sure you guys download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use code STL Sports to grab $300. That is $300 in bonus bets with just a $5 bet when we go live on December 1st. That is code STL Sports in partnership with DraftKings Sportsbook. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. 21 plus, physically present in Missouri. Eligibility restrictions apply. Bonus bets expire 7 days after issuance. Excludes customers who redeem pre-launch sign-up offer. Terms at sportsbook.draftkings. Mike, if you had to give me a bet right now, in your mind,
On the spot.
you can pull up a gambling bet if you want to, but I was just thinking if you had a bet on where the St. Louis Blues finish in the Central Division at the end of this season, based off of a 1-game sample size, as well as preseason, as well as what we've gone through with the
Don't base it off tonight. Don't do that.
You can base it off whatever your little sweetheart desires. Give me your bet for where the Blues place in the Central Division.
If I had to go with my gut, I'm still going to say what I've been saying here all preseason. I think this team finishes third in the Central Division.
I agree with that, actually. That's kind of where I have them. But I think it's because Winnipeg was losing the last time I checked tonight too. But they were coming back. They were down, I think they were down 5-0, and they made it 5-1, and it was 5-2. So a little bit better than us, which is fitting because they were a little bit better than us last season. Damn, that's kind of rough. Ethan, give me your 82-game finish for the St. Louis Blues in the Central Division at the end of the year.
I'm going to err on the side of caution and say first wild card. But I think that third is realistic. I've heard a lot of people project third. I'm going to give a little bit of extra grace and leeway to a relatively young roster.
Yeah, I like it. And I'm going forward against the Flames. I feel like it's tough to go up against a team like the Minnesota Wild, who are kind of, riding a high off of, paying a dude $17 million, making him the highest paid NHL player of all time. Like, obviously, Kirill Kaprizov's nothing to sneeze at. And, they're kind of making their way out of cap hell with all their contracts there. So the team's just continuing to get better. And they're part of the reason why the Central Division is so tough. So, by all accounts, this is a failure of a home opener, and it is embarrassing. That being said, it's a tough matchup in your first game in the friendly confines with a young team, right? Riding a 15-game win streak at home. Like, there's a lot of pressure on the St. Louis Blues. Not saying that gives them a right to, not show up, but it is tough. So hopefully they bounce back against the Calgary Flames. What do you think, Mike?
Yeah. I think they're going to have a tough matchup here up against them. Calgary is already playing now in their second game here of the season, and they're looking like they could potentially go 2-0 to be able to before they face off here against St. Louis. But not to be able to drag this on too terribly long. But I think the Blues will come out firing here against this team. They're going to look to show that they've got some stuff and some gusto here still in them, and something to be able to prove that this 5-0 loss here was nothing but an anomaly and just a little bit of a false start here for them.
Ethan, I have a question for you. It's a little bit pointed, so I'll try to make it long-winded while you come up with your response to it. But Logan Mailloux kind of reminded me of Vince Dunn's game a little bit tonight. Like, obviously his skating ability is there, and I think the knock on him has always been, especially from Montreal, that they didn't feel like he was ready to play a defensive game at the NHL level yet. The Blues obviously felt like he was ready and traded Zachary Bolduc for him. Zachary Bolduc has 2 goals already on the season on a Montreal Canadiens team that looks like they're already flying high with Demidov, who is supposed to be a Calder favorite too. So I'm praying on his downfall, not just because of the Blues implications, but because of my bet. Anyways, in your mindset, and in my mind, right? Logan Mailloux is always going to be linked to Zachary Bolduc, and he's always going to be directly compared to Zachary Bolduc because I feel like we're doing it right now. But in your mind, we're comparing a defenseman against a forward, and we're comparing, I think Zachary Bolduc is a little bit older. If he's not, he's obviously has more NHL games under his belt, and he's like a power play scoring, dominating force whose job is to put the puck in the back of the net. Is it fair? First part of the question is it fair to compare Logan Mailloux to Zachary Bolduc? And the second part is, if you are going to compare them, how should you compare them?
Not fair at all to compare. Totally not fair at all to compare. Matthew Rocchio said something in the comments here a few minutes ago. Something along the lines of Logan Mailloux looked like a guy that's playing in his 9th regular season game. And, that was very accurate. Thought he was very skittish tonight. Thought, had some poor passes, some poor decision making. So and like you said, Zach Bolduc already has 2 goals in 2 games to start off the season. Fans are going to have to be patient because, fans are going to look at this and they're going to see the results that you're getting from Zach Bolduc on the other side. And I think there's going to be a desire to get back those immediate results from Logan Mailloux. It's not going to happen right now. It's going to take him time to adjust to this level. He's on the 3rd line, so that's going to limit opportunities on the power play, things like that, where, his strength, his offensive ability, it would really be able to show. So it's really hard to compare. You look at, I'll throw a quick example. You look at, comparisons of trades. For several years, everyone said, the Blues were huge winners of the Ryan O'Reilly, Tage Thompson trade because they got a Stanley Cup out of it. Well, you know what? Like, you could argue that trade is evened out a little bit because Tage Thompson's one of the best NHLers in the league now. So it takes time. It takes time for these trades to develop and to have an actual, wide range view of who comes out on top. It's been 1 game. Was it bumpy? Sure. Are the Canadians going to win the short term of this? Probably. But the Blues didn't make this trade for the short term. They made this to add youth to their defensive pairing, something they did not have a lot of that they felt super confident in right now to eventually be a top 4 piece. That's what they think Logan Mailloux can be. So be patient when it comes to how you view Logan Mailloux, Blues fans.
Same draft class, by the way.
I was going to say I would be remiss if I didn't ask you the same question, being your dominance in the prospect field.
Yeah, same thing. It's just going to take time. And again, I just looked it up here. Same draft class because this is the draft class that the Blues actually were targeting Logan Mailloux, who ended up selecting Zachary Bolduc because Logan said that he didn't want to be selected here in this draft here due to the off-ice incidents. But yeah, this is going to be one that you're going to look back potentially. You could look back at it right now and say, hey, these guys have played 1, 2, 3 games. Oh yeah, Montreal won this because you have a guy who's putting the puck in the back of the net more. Great. But take a look here and see what the effect is here on each respective organization 5 years, 10 years down the line, and be able to see what has their contributions here been. Did Zachary Bolduc end up leading this team here to a Stanley Cup? Did Logan Mailloux end up evening out this defensive core? Did he end up doing, fill in the blank, whatever that the situation may end up being, whatever that you're going to end up comparing here to, make it sure that it's an even one. And then at that point in time, then you say, yeah, it's probably going to be a very even hockey trade.
That has been Mike Meyer. That has been Ethan Hannaford. I have been Thomas Welch. And this has been your post-game show on Blue Central, brought to you by DraftKings. The crown is yours. Thank you guys for tuning in. Make sure you follow us on all socials, STL Sports Central and Blue Central. Make sure you check those out. We'll be posting, clips, tweets, posts, all that good stuff. But we'll see you guys next time, hopefully with a better result. Thank you.